Hey guys, welcome back to our C++ series. In this episode, we're going to be learning more about functions. In the last episode, we learned about basic functions, and now we're going to learn more applications for those functions in order to actually make sense of the functions and how to make them actually useful for what we need to use them for. So in order to do that, we need to know about parameters. And parameters are just a way for programmers to get data from one function to another. And in order to know why that's important, we need to learn a little bit more about variables. So if you see the variable int x in the main function, it's currently equal to 1. This is what's called a local variable. It is local to main. So its scope is everything inside of main, which would be from the open bracket to the closing bracket. So only main, no other function would know what x is without passing x to the function. And when you pass it, that's when it becomes a parameter. You can have global variables. While they are absolutely terrible and should not be used in real practice, you can. Hey guys, this is Matt in editing. I just wanted to throw in that global variables aren't necessarily bad. They're more risky than anything else. As programs become increasingly large, it becomes harder and harder to figure out which functions are actually altering or changing a global variable as opposed to a local variable. And the Toyota example that I'm about to give in the video, they actually had 100,000 global variables, which is absolutely astonishing. It's bad practice. Just don't do it. And create a variable globally, so int y equals 2, and then we could display it, and even though it's outside of main, it'll still pop up because main can still see it because it's global. It's declared outside of main, but not within another function, so it's considered a global variable. To know why this is bad, I believe it was Toyota actually had an issue before with their brakes not working because of global variables being overwritten. That's the problem with global variables. You don't really know what's accessing it. If you want something to access a local variable and you accidentally have it access a global variable, really bad things can happen, like brakes not working. So in order to fix this, we can use advanced structures like classes in order to limit which functions are able to alter our variables. And we'll get into classes in the next video. Classes are basically just a way of organizing functions and containing them to make sense and have everything that's related to each other in one cohesive, basically parent function. To actually get into functions, let's declare a function, and we're going to call it void getName. Okay, so what's going on here? The void in this declaration just means that it doesn't return something. So in main, normally at the bottom we have return 0, semicolon, and that's just returning, returns false, gets out of the function, it's not returning anything. So for main, this has to exist. You can't say, void main and not have a return type. But for other functions, for what's called a user-defined function, we can have any type we want. So we can have an int type that would return an int. We can have a string type that would return a string, a double, so on and so forth. In this case, it's void. That just means it doesn't return anything. It's void of a return type. So don't let the word void confuse you or trip you up. It just means it doesn't return anything. Okay, so this is the function itself. And to actually create the starting declaration, you would just create this up here and then add a semicolon. So all this is doing is saying, hey, at some point in my program, I want to use this function. It's going to be a void. It's going to be called getName. It doesn't have any parameters, but at some point, I don't know when, but at some point we're going to use it. So allocate space for it. So the compiler sees that and says, okay. And then anytime after you declare this, you can't have the definition, which is what this is, which is what the function actually does. You can't have the definition before the declaration because you'll get an error. The compiler doesn't know what the function is before you declare it. And you can declare things inline, but beginning, we're just going to do it like this. It kind of keeps everything nice and neat. You can even kind of separate them here. So getting to the main function, what do we want it to do? Well, we know that the main function can basically do whatever we want, but we don't want it to get too messy. So let's have get name actually get the user's name. So we're going to have the following statements. We're going to have a string called name, and we're going to do a cout. Hello, what is your name? Go ahead and end your line. And then as before, we're going to do a cn, and then we're going to just type in name. All this is saying is, hey, this is what it's displaying. What's your name? It's going to get the name from the user, and then it's going to store it into the string name, the variable name. Okay, so now, in order to actually get the function to run, we would just type in get name. Whoops, trying to autocomplete's not working for me. And then when we run the program, it's going to go, hello, what's your name? I'm going to do Matt, and bam, that's it, because we don't have it displaying what the name actually is. So there we go. But let's say that we have another function that wants to see what name is. We're going to have one called getColor. So we're going to do void getColor. We can end it. I'm going to do void getColor, and let's actually create the function. So what do we want this to do? Well, as the name suggests, we want to get the color from the user. So let's add another string called color. And then after we have this variable named color, we need to actually, get it from the user. So let's do another cout, and then do hello. Let's leave a space. Let's type in name because we want it to display the user's name. And then what is your color? So now what the user is going to do is enter in their color for us to use. Whoops. Okay. So now it's going to say, hello, Matt, what is your color? All right, let's see if this works. And we know it probably won't because this red line's under here, so let's figure out what's going on. So let's do get name. And then let's try to run get color. And what we could actually do, because we know it's coming next, we could leave it here, or we could actually just call the function from the other function. Get an error because it's not above this, so let's just do this. So if you wanted to do what we were going to do up here, you could just move get color above get name, and move the declaration, move the declaration for get color above get name, and then it knows that get color is a function. It would run then. But to keep things simple, let's keep it down in main so you can see how the program actually steps through the functions. So go ahead and run it. Oh, look what happens. There's build errors. Why? Okay. So the reason that there are build errors is because getColor has absolutely no idea what name is. Name is local to getName. getColor has absolutely no idea what name is. So in order to fix that, all we have to do is come up to here, getColor, and let's say it's going to take a string. All right, it's going to take a string of some sort, okay? So we're going to say string, and then now what? Well, when we call it, we're going to say it gets string name. Oh, make sure your parentheses are right. Okay. So now you can go ahead and name it whatever you want because the name doesn't actually matter. We could name this color name just so you guys can see. You have to still give the string that you're passing in a name. You can make it the same name. You can make it a different name. It doesn't really matter. But let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. All right, what is your name? Matt. What is your color? We'll say blue. And then the program is going to end. So as you can see, it will display a name, because it knows what name actually is, because we passed it to the function. Let's do another one called getInfo. It's going to be a string because it's going to return a string. Let's actually put this declaration up top. And it's actually going to get a string and a string. It's going to get two strings. It's going to get name and it's going to get the color. Something uniquely C++, you can actually pass in three parameters at one time. But let's just stick with two for now. So let's do string getInfo. And we're going to call it string name and string color. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Very, very simple. All we're going to do is create a function that just displays this. So cout hello, leave a space for the name, and then put your color is blue, or your color is space, and then we'll leave it up to the user to define what their color is. Okay, so now that we have this function that takes in two variables, how do we actually pass the variables there? It's just like before. So when we call this function, so we call getInfo, we can type in name because we know that the name needs to come first, because if not, we'll throw it off. So color name goes first, and then comma, color, if I could type. So now getInfo is happy because it knows what name is and it knows what color is. Let's actually put in the color though. There we go. So now this should run. We run the program, and what's going on? Okay, so let's figure it out. You remember what I said about it returning a string? Well, it has to actually return a string. So you're going to get an error unless you have return. And then what do we want it to return? Let's just have it return name and color to see what this does. Go ahead and end it. Run it. What is your name? It's going to be Matt, blue. And hello, Matt, your color is blue. So there you go. Now, what we can do is actually use another function to actually grab this return value. So let's see what's going on. So what's your name? Matt, blue. For your color is blue. Returns blue. So there you go. That'll do it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we're going to be going over classes and how to actually use them using setter and getter functions and what classes actually are. We're going to be kind of constructing the basics of a text-based game. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you stay tuned for the next video. Until then, peace.